Hello and welcome people back to Let's Enjoy Nights into Dreams on the PlayStation 2. And now we're going to my favorite stage in the entire game next to the final stage. It's mostly for, it's really mostly for its music.
I love her platform shoes. Big old clown shoes.
Not quite
She
as
was a clown
clowny.
all along. Yeah.
Not quite as clowny as the princess from Shining Wisdom though.
I mean, nothing could be that clowny. But Sega loves clowns. Sega is a bunch of clowns.
But yeah, I love this song. It's just so good.
You like flutes. I have some music I could recommend based off of this. Flutes and chanting.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two. If you want Nico to love you, show up at his door, chanting and playing the flute.
Yeah, just like in Ariel One's legs.
In Ariel One's legs. I don't know why that always entertains me so much. But your impression of that's very good. But yes, this is a nifty song. I dig it.
Mm-hmm. It just has so much energy to it.
The downside is the sound effects aren't in key with this song.
I've learned to live with it. You know, it's not a rhythm game, even though it does have it has.
Oh,
not
about
elements.
rhythm. It just like the tones used in the sound effects don't always match up with the key of the song, or at least that's what my ear's saying. Comment below if you think that it all does match up and I'm a fraud.
There's also the factor that the sound effects change in pitch the more you collect in a row.
Ah, yes. They're chromatic, so...
Yeah, like the linking is actually... they actually express the linking by by making the pitch higher. So similar to how Crash Bandicoot has it, and actually a lot of
and
other...
Sonic.
Yeah. Like the more you collect, the higher the pitch gets. And I kind of like that, because it's like you don't even need to look at the screen. In order to know that you're doing well.
Channels is very important. You ran a red light, Nico. You're a terrible driver.
But I'm not driving, I'm flying, bitch.
Red lights don't apply to you if you can fly.
Exactly.
I was imagining like
that's what freedom is. That's what freedom of flight is about. Saying fuck you to police.
But I'm imagining like Sonic says, but Nico says. It's like, if you can fly, you don't need to listen to stoplights. Way too slow, policeman.
Me and my I'm playing through Divinity Original Sin 2 again with one of my friends. Because they came out with the official Polish translation. The Polish translation is horrible, but
it's official though.
It's official, but it's pretty bad. But they're improving it, so you know I'm not gonna hold it against them. It's just
also, Polish is impossible, as you told me.
Yeah, but they're doing like this weird in the middle translation of they're keeping it accurate, but also letting themselves come up with some new things which weren't exactly the same as before. They should just decide on one or the other, really.
Yeah. That in-betweenness, especially for someone who's played the original version, is maddening.
Yeah, a little bit, especially since I know what they mean, and I'm like, no, this is not right.
That is, honestly, when I listen to, I watch anime or Korean drama, I know enough of those languages just to know, like, I know very little of both of them, but I know enough just to know that's not what they said. That's a terrible translation, and sometimes I know, like, exactly what was said, and I'm like, why would you translate it that way?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases I appreciate the translation being different. because a lot of the times it's just you know, conveying something that's culturally impossible, right? Like doesn't like really wouldn't make sense
Like
either way.
not hating Jewish people, that'd be pretty impossible.
But like a good example of how you're like a good example of a translation that took a lot of liberties, but like still came out really well, or rather better because of these liberties, was the Polish translation of Ed and Eddie.
Oh, I was gonna say Ghost Stories.
Ghost Stories is like super extreme example. But no, like the Polish translation of Ed and Eddie, because they like, because the show was so random, they actually made the translation itself a lot more random, and it sort of worked.
Okay. I have never seen the Polish translation, but I can say as someone who watched the English version, I hated it.
Because you don't like gross out humor.
Yes.
And
I
can
get grossed out.
Yeah, I can understand why you wouldn't appreciate it then.
I did like the Kanker sisters though, the blue-haired one. Am I right?
Yes. They're pretty great villains because they're like their motivation is just so unbreakable.
Yeah, that they were my favorite part of that show. I hated the main characters and all the side characters except for them. Well, and what's his name? The blue-haired guy. Apparently, I just like people with blue hair.
Rolf, the foreigner.
Yes.
Who's actually the thing with Rolf was that he was foreign no matter where you're from.
Oh yeah, he is foreign. He is an alien.
That is it was just such a thing where they would just mix a different culture into his culture. And it was just like, oh, so like he's from Switzerland, but why are there elephants?
You run into those every time.
I know, but it's hard. You have to be like exactly in the middle in order for them to not damage you.
I'll ask you a question after this episode. So.
But what I was we went.
Are we still on the same song?
Yeah, we went all the way off from what I was actually trying to say. We were playing through Divinity, and we have sort of like a thing going on, which we call Divinity out of context.
Excellent.
And it's just like, if you haven't played Divinity, it has so many weird, unusual mechanics that only that like, when you take them out of context, it's just like, do you have any arms for me to eat? And similar things like that.
Yeah. I'm confused. Sorry. Why are we underwater in all of her stages? Is she just afraid of fish or the ocean? Or is this all Star Wars Episode 1, the greatest movie of all time?
But did Star Wars Episode 1 have the underwater elements in it?
You don't remember the part where they go through the planet core?
I totally get that right there.
There's always the bigger fish, and then that honestly, as a kid, and still probably to this day, that was my favorite part because I like underwater segments and anything. So that makes me a weirdo, I guess. I'm not afraid of the ocean. I like deep sea things with giant sea creatures. Hey, you got him in your first night.
Yeah, the first night thing just kind of means how many
and he
times
exploded.
How many times you've beaten the game, more or less.
But I like how he exploded. That was
it's always nice. On the Saturn, the game sort of always freaks out.
Right.
Whenever that happens, because the layers of graphics just cannot handle all of it at once. So obviously I'm making twinkle twirlies to make it even harder on the poor old Saturn.
That happened in a lot of those old games. Whenever you had those big bloomy explosions, they just had to slow down. They couldn't render it otherwise.
Like not just slow down, like half of the things disappearing every other frame. It's charming that way because like it's very obvious that this game is was like really pushing the hardware very hard, and it's impressive how they managed to achieve that.